The Babysitters Club is going to Europe. After going to Disney World, Vermont, California, New York, Discount Atlantic City, California again, Hawaii, nowhere in particular, and more. Can I just say this series gave me unrealistic expectations about how often I would go on vacation?
Argo Font Book Review, Argo Font Book Review.
This book was written by Peter Larangis. The 5 girls on the book's cover are going to London and Paris for a school trip. Jessi screams with excitement when she learns her dance friends from Book 115 will be there. They'll be performing the special dance they learned with Jessi. Take a wild guess as to where this story is going. Abby is also excited. She figures she'll get to meet the Queen of England. It's weird that Abby thinks she'll meet the Queen, because their tour group is not going to the palace, and besides, the Queen has more important things to do than hang out with random American tourists. There are 50 students on this trip. Guess how many adults are there? 2. 2 adults for 50 kids. That is not an ideal number of chaperones. One adult is a teacher named Mr. Doherty, who's so excited to be in England that he talks and acts like a buffoon. He tends to abandon the kids and wander off by himself. What a terrible guardian. The other chaperone is Stacey's mom. Stacey is mortified to have her mom there. Stacey's also upset when one of the bad girls flirts with her ex-boyfriend. Stacey gets someone else's suitcase by mistake. Inside is an urn with human ashes. Stacey's terrified she traded suitcases with a murderer. She's even more terrified when she realizes she's going to have to wear her mom's clothes. Ew! Alan Gray acts like a doofus around airport security. The security guards take him away, and everybody gets held up until they give him back. This is why they need more than 2 chaperones. If just one kid has a problem, it holds up the entire group. Their school teams up with a Canadian school. Abby and Jessi make Canadian friends, who we never get to see. We see a lot of Kristy's Canadian partner, Michel Dumoulin. He's obnoxious and teases her all the time because they like rival sports teams. Kristy instantly hates him. Dawn, Marianne, and Claudia are staying at home to work at a playground camp. There are several continuity issues between this and the previous book. Like, Dawn now says she didn't want to go to France because she's already been there. The camp is no longer a 2-month camp, it's just a week long. We're told Cokie got the job because her mom is running the camp, and I think we're supposed to pretend Janine didn't get turned down when she applied for the job herself. Janine's ex-boyfriend Jerry is the head counselor. He picks Janine to be his partner because who cares about the long, involved application process? They're going to let the teenager give the job to the girl he likes. Jerry makes a joke about Janine and Claudia. Janine gets mad and she starts yelling at Claudia. Mallory meets a family cousin named Jillian Orton. Mallory's impressed to learn Jillian is a novelist. As they say in England, that's ab-fab. Mallory has fun with her relatives, and she's stunned when she sees the family tree. She's descended from the famous writer William Shakespeare. I should probably note this isn't possible. Shakespeare's family line ended 33 years after he died. Nobody is his great-great-great-great-grandchild. Stacey loves shopping in London, even though it sounds exactly the same like shopping in New York City. Stacey learns the suitcase belongs to a World War II veteran. He fought in Normandy on D-Day. The ashes belong to a friend who was there with him. Stacey thinks it's a little weird at first. When Stacey visits the cabinet war room, she realizes how serious the war was, and she decides to meet the veteran. At playground camp, it rains so badly they have to bring all the kids inside. Instead of helping, Cokie makes a dirty joke.
Cokie Mason was sinking to the hallway floor next to the soda machine. As we passed, she started cracking up. Well, if it isn't the Babysitters Club wet t-shirt contest, not that anyone would notice.
Jessi takes everyone to the dance performance. One of the dancers gets injured, so they ask Jessi to take her place in the performance. Jessi does great, everyone cries, and her dancing is shown on international television. It's basically a dream come true for her. Abby and the babysitters visit Victoria Kent. Abby's bummed out when she sees Victoria has a tiny house, not a giant palace. Victoria says she'll be presenting flowers to the Queen at a gala tomorrow. She picks Abby as her chaperone, so now Abby gets to meet the Queen. It's basically a dream come true for her. Robert narrates a chapter. He alternates between being bummed out and being annoyed when the bad girl won't stop flirting with him. He yells at her for insulting Stacey, and she decides to leave him alone. In Dawn's only chapter, she visits a camp for special needs children. She spends all her time watching Susan Felder from Book 32. Dawn is frightened when Susan uses a hug machine. Mallory struggles with her writing. The group goes to Shakespeare's home and they see a play. Mallory learns Shakespeare's daughter looks like Cousin Gillian. This inspires Mallory to write a time-traveling Shakespeare story. The Shakespeare Publishing Company is so impressed, they offer her a book deal. It's basically a dream come true for her. I'm just kidding. That doesn't really happen. But this book has so many unrealistic fantasies, it would not have been out of place. Kristy decides they should see a cricket match, and Stacey decides they should go shopping again. Again, there are 50 kids from the school here. Why does the Babysitters Club get to decide the schedule that everyone else must follow? Kristy gets mad at Michel and deliberately avoids him. She gets even madder when he purposely gets dog slobber on her hand. Abby wonders what she's going to say to the Queen. It turns out she doesn't need to worry. At the event, Victoria and some other girls hold up flowers when the Queen arrives. Abby and everybody else is forced to stand behind a railing a long way away. So I guess the only Queen that Abby will meet is Claudia, Queen of 7th grade. Abby doesn't look where she's going afterwards. She accidentally steps on the foot of that one prince guy who's always with the Queen. Abby doesn't remember his name, which just goes to show that it's weird for Abby to be a big fan of the Queen of England when Abby doesn't even know who the Queen's husband is. Victoria gets Abby an awkward photo of her stepping on the prince's toes, so Abby can always remember how she humiliated herself in England. Janine keeps criticizing Claudia until Claudia snaps. They get into a big fight. Not long after, Claudia sees Janine crying. She asks what's wrong, and I thought that was really nice of Claudia. She really cares about her sister's feelings, even though they just had a big fight. Janine explains Jerry's been terrible to her all week. She apologizes for taking her anger out on Claudia. Jessi is awarded golden dance shoes, and they go to Paris. Stacey goes to Normandy with the veteran, and she watches as he scatters his friend's ashes. Michel bothers Kristy at the Louvre. They argue, and so they get separated from the rest of the group. Since the chaperoning on this middle school trip is terrible, there's no real plan for what to do in case someone gets lost. So Kristy and Michel get to wander around Paris by themselves for 4 hours until they meet up with the others at dinner. Michel stops being such a pest, and they act like friends as he takes her to various famous places. At playground camp, Janine stands up for herself when Jerry's mean to her. Cokie tries to get paired with Logan for softball. When she sees Logan's not interested, she gets mad and quits the job. The babysitters are surprisingly happy that the camp is falling apart. Mallory's so excited about her story she doesn't pay much attention to anything else. Jessi convinces Mallory to put her notebook down and start paying attention to the tour guides. I thought this was a little weird because in the Hawaii Super Special, Jessi writes all the time instead of living in the moment. So Jessi's mad at Mallory for doing the exact same thing she did 2 years ago. Abby and Kristy go to the Paris sewer system. They get into a fight because Kristy likes Michel, but she's worried he doesn't like her back. Kristy feels ridiculous for being afraid to talk to Michel. He shows up alone in Kristy's hotel room, and they kiss while looking at the Eiffel Tower. The end. Post-book follow-up. I have the version of this book with a shiny magenta cover. It's so shiny! The final quarter of the book feels off to me. As soon as the group arrives in Paris, the writing style changes. I think maybe the author was rushing to meet a deadline or something, because we suddenly get a lot of one-sentence paragraphs, and there are 3 chapters which are only 4 pages long. I also noticed the handwritten pages at the start of every chapter are longer in general. They're mostly 2 pages long in this book, whereas in the last super special, they were mostly 1 page long. But I will give this book a pass on using handwriting sections to inflate the page count, because this is nowhere near as bad as Super Special 5, which had 3 pages of unnecessary fluff before every chapter. Kristy's story was okay. I thought it was weird how her love interest, Michel, acts exactly the same as Alan Gray. I kind of wish it was Alan Gray who filled that role in the story. You know, Kristy could have fallen in love with Alan Gray. Alan was treated as a serious character when he talked about his secret crush in the Valentine mystery, and having Kristy kiss Alan would have been one way to handle his character before the Babysitters Club series ends. It's gonna end really soon. This is the last super special. I like the story at the playground group with Claudia and Marianne. I think both of them needed a 3rd chapter to round out the story. I would sacrifice Robert's boring chapter or Jessi's 3rd chapter for that. I might get rid of Dawn's chapter 2. It was interesting to see Susan again, but it was quite disconnected from the rest of the book. Stacey's story with the veteran was good. I think it cut into the story about Stacey being embarrassed by her mom. There wasn't enough resolution to that. Stacey also shared the bad girl storyline with Robert. I'm not sure why she got more stories than everyone else. Abby's storyline was fine, if you can get past the fact that she's suddenly best friends with Victoria Kent, and she's suddenly obsessed with the Queen of England. Her story is pretty unrealistic and goes into wish fulfillment fantasy territory, just like Jessi's international dancing debut, and Mallory becoming a Shakespeare. But hey, I thought the stuff was interesting, so I'm not going to complain. Overall, I like the book. Since it's the last super special, I'm more willing to overlook its flaws. My main issues are that the book falls flat in the final quarter. The playground camp needed 2 more chapters, and the girls never meet the palace guard like they do on the cover of the book. I give Babysitter's Super Special number 15, Babysitter's European Vacation, a 7.5 out of 10.